Hello YouTube followers. I am working on a painting this morning and it's a commission for a customer, so I'm not going to show you the whole painting, but I was mixing up my darkest color in it. I never use black paint in my paintings. If I do, it's very rarely and it's only the dull colors. I want to show you how I get my blacks without using black. Alright, trying to hold the camera steady with my hands here instead of using the tripod, so I'm not showing you the whole painting on this. But I'm working on this portion of this painting at the moment. I started by putting some base colors down, getting kind of my overall tonality for the entire painting figured out before I came in and started putting in my darkest darks. When I started putting in my darkest darks, they were just light, thin versions to figure out where the value is going to be. Now I'm coming through and really working on them. If you can see, I've finished the windshield area there, and most of this window I got to come in and put in some highlights and shadows that I marked out with my pencils. I have some details in here that'll be really dark, and then this is that kind of thin version I was telling you about for figuring out my values for the overall painting. So now I'm coming through and making those really look like they're going to look for the final version. If you look at that, you can tell that it's not black. It's really, really dark blue. Alright, bring you over here to my mixing table real quick, and I do apologize if y'all can hear my neighbor's lawnmower playing in the back. Or not playing, mowing in the back. So these are what I use when I'm doing acrylic paintings for palettes. You know, I think they're the best disposable palette in the world. You can get like a pack of 100 paper plates, dollar store, for almost nothing. I'll use the same palette until the painting's done. I used to use these plastic ones and then soak them until I could peel the paint off and start over again, but that seems like a lot of wasted time. So I just use paper plate. When I'm done, I can throw it away. Back to our color stuff. The painting that I'm working on, mostly in blue tones. So I started actually originally by taking ultramarine blue, and I covered my entire canvas in a thin layer of ultramarine blue. You might have another video on that at some point in time. But I've limited my palette. I came in, if I ever want a little bit brighter, lighter blue, I'm using cerulean. For my green, I've got phthalo green. I have some yellow ochre. I'm using cadmium red. And then I have my white. And that's the only tubes of color that I'm using in this painting. I find it really helpful for me to have a painting that looks unified if I limit how many colors that I use and try to make everything from those. You know, yellow, red, and blue are your primary colors, and I really try to stick to my primary colors. I've got 2 variations in this, right? And I'm not using the brightest yellow in the world. But I've already mixed up some of my darkest dark here, which I'm using as my black. Again, no black tube paint here. I'm just using these colors. A little bit of knowledge that really helps in figuring this stuff out is knowing your color wheel. And if we would imagine, you know, our color wheel with green, green in between yellow and blue, red's going to be the opposite side of that green. Obviously in here would be an orange and a violet. I'm not using either of those 2 colors. So let's mix up some black the way that I mix up black. I start off, well, I've already got some squoze on here, of my ultramarine blue. I know that if I add this red to it, it's kind of an opposite color. Let me clean a brush out, show you what happens. And I know color doesn't show up really well in video, photographs, prints, not exactly like you see it in real life. That's why original paintings are so much cooler. Sometimes they're not cooler. More vivid, more crisp, more detailed than prints. Anyhow, so I'm going to take a big heaping part of this blue, And I'm going to put it right here where y'all can see it. I'm going to grab a fair amount of red, okay, and I'm just mixing with my brush. So try not to use up too much paint. Stretch it and make it go a long ways. Whole starving artist thing, right? Not starving. Thriving artist. You don't waste materials. Anyhow, so it's already making that look darker. I don't know if you can tell. That's kind of a purpley, violet, darker color. If I take this and I bring it way over here and bring it out real thin, you can see it's still pretty blue. I'm going to add some more red to it. It's going to darken it up a little bit more. And one of the things when I used to teach that I always tried to teach my students is how important it is to know that color wheel, because the opposite color on a color wheel, if I use blue, the opposite's orange, they're going to kind of cancel each other out and make each other look dull. So I just added that red in there, and I'll come back out here again and show you it's now more of a violet. But I want to cancel some of that red out. I still want to stay in the blues because my overall painting is a blue painting, so I'm not going, you know, too far into the reds. Staying with blues. Green is going to give me an opposite and still stay kind of in that blue family because you use blue to make green. So just a little bit there. I don't know if you can even see that on my plate. I'm going to get a little bit of that and mix it in here and see if it starts making that look a little less red. And I'm going to add a little bit more. So right now I'm basically dulling out this color, which is going to make it look more like a black, less like a violet. Still be in the blue family. Okay, let's come up here to where I can test this and show you guys. That's pretty dark in comparison to the blue that we started with. It's darker than the red we started with, and it's darker than the green. For my purposes, it's dark enough. One of the other things about paint, or about color, is it's relative to its surroundings. So when I put this color surrounded by a whole bunch of other light blues, it's going to look like black. We know it's blue. I made it from blue. If I put an actual black color chip next to it in the painting, you'd be able to tell that it wasn't black. But without any actual black near it, you can't tell. So it's gonna look like black. Let's go put some on our painting. All right, my brush is loaded up with this black. I'm actually over here loading a little bit more. Hopefully my hand won't be in the way too much for you. And I'm coming in right now with this part that I know is going to be the darkest dark. And now that I'm putting it on my painting, I can tell it's still a little more purple or violet than I want it to be. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and cover this whole area with it. I hope my hand's not in the way too much for y'all. Because, you know, I'm going to go ahead and cover this whole area. I'm going to go back and remix my color, let this dry, come back over the top, because even though it's not exactly the color I want, it's still going to make this area darker. So when the next layer comes on, it's still going to perform really, really dark. I might not be saying things the best, most explanatory way. I'm not the best wordsmith out there. I just play with paint. Gotten into a habit of liking to use the biggest brushes that I can for a job. Get away with it. All right. In the camera here, it looks relatively black. On my painting, it kind of looks like I want, but it's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to try and cancel some of that violet out a little bit more by adding its opposite, which the opposite of violet on the color wheel is yellow. And I'm using yellow ochre, which is already doled out a little bit. I'm not going to need very much. Just enough to try and kill some of that violet look that's showing through on this. It's making it look a tad lighter, not much. We don't want to add enough violet to where it starts to look green, just enough to where it doesn't look so violet anymore. Or yellow. We don't want to add enough yellow to where it looks green. All right, I think I've got it. Let's do a little test. Oh, dude. Yep. Back to my painting. One of the joys here of acrylics is they don't take long at all to dry. So if I want to come back and cover over this, it might not be perfectly dry yet, but it's dry enough that my paint will stick in a layer on top of it. And I'm only worried about covering it good enough to where it doesn't look like violet anymore. Another nice thing to know when you're trying to make areas that look black is that your paint dries darker than what it goes on. I've heard before that it's like 15% darker. I don't really know how you measure that. But it does dry darker, which helps me out so that it looks black. Hope you guys have enjoyed this tip. You can see how dark that looks up against everything there. Looks black, only made from blue, green, red, and yellow. All of my paintings, my black is basically just made from the primary colors. Hope that helps y'all. It's really important to learn how to master mixing colors. I think it makes your paintings look a little bit more unified. Hope that helps you. Bye. If you've stuck around past my little bit of an outro, here is what the finished part of this part of the painting looks like. If y'all like this stuff, let me know. Please tell me if you'd like more videos like this. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Have a good day.